Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And boy, oh boy, it is here. We got 0.9 for DC20. We got all of the subclasses, and I am so excited to talk about them. Let's get into it. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a continuing series that has a playlist on the channel where we discuss every single class and their subclasses in the new 0.9 update for DC20. And we're going to be starting off with everybody's favorite tank, the big beefy boy Barbarian. And let me tell you, we got some fun choices coming in. So every single class at level 3 gets a choice between one of two subclasses or their Paragon subclass, which we will discuss when we get there, but we've talked about it in previous videos, you may remember. Now the first subclass for Barbarian is the Elemental Fury subclass. And hey, it's exactly what it sounds like. You get to pick an element or a type of damage, and you're going to get some bonuses based off of that. So whenever you do pick Elemental Fury, you get the class feature Raging Elements, and basically you can pick either Cold, Fire, or Lightning. And then what's going to happen is anytime you start raging, you get a 2-space wide aura that is going to do a couple of different things. Now it's important to note that if you choose Physical, then your damage each time you choose to rage can either be bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing. It's going to be up to you. So with this aura around you, you're going to get 2 main features and then some extra stuff you can choose. Now those 2 main features are going to be one that really helps with that kind of close range class fantasy of being a real bruiser, because anytime someone is inside of that aura that hits you or deals damage to you, you are going to deal 1 elemental damage back to them. So kind of nice, just gives you a free chip back if someone's trying to, box you straight up. And you also have a bit of a range attack, which is nice. If someone is inside of that aura, you can spend an action point and a stamina point to target any amount of creatures inside of your aura, and they're all going to take 1 damage based off of a save. Now a unique thing is if you are just fighting one-on-one, you can choose to only target that creature, and then they're going to take 3 damage instead. So kind of gives you that nice option of if you want to multi-target and spread the damage out around you, or if you're just fighting one-on-one, you get that bonus of dealing more synchronized solo damage on that one target. Finally, within this aura, you get to choose one of the following benefits of 4 options. You have the slowing aura option, which does what it sounds like. They make a save inside your aura or they are slowed. There's the splashing aura, which basically anytime you deal one of your elemental rage damage points to somebody, you can also then freely deal 1 more to someone that is 1 space away from them. So kind of convenient. There is the stunning aura, which doesn't necessarily stun the target, but rather just makes it where if they fail a save, they cannot use any action points on reactions until their turn, so that's kind of nice. And then finally there is the pushing aura, which again is what it sounds like. Whenever you use your elemental blast, which is that ranged attack we talk about, you can also push that enemy up to 2 spaces. So kind of cool, gives you some real choices of like how you want to handle this character. Are you wanting to push people around? Do you want to stack more damage if you're, surrounded? Do you want to maybe slow people that get near you so they can't get away, possibly? A lot of cool options, some fun flavor. Now, speaking of flavor, one thing that I haven't mentioned is the flavor feature that every subclass gets, which is basically something that is going to tie into your subclass that does not really help you in combat at all, but rather is made to help in the actual roleplay aspects of your character. So for this one, you have the Elemental Affinity flavor feature, where you're going to be infused with whatever element you choose, and it gives you 3 kind of cool things you can do in roleplay scenarios. One being that you can make your voice boom up to 3 times louder than normal, which very fun, very barbarian fitting when you're raging and yelling. 2, you can either call upon non-harmful magic of your element. So, if you choose fire, you can have fire swirl around you. That doesn't deal damage, but is just more of a display of your affinity with this element. And then finally, you can make advantage saves against exhaustion due to environmental effects. So because you are very in tune with the elements, it just lines up that environmental effects don't affect you quite as much. And to be clear again, you get all 3 of these. These are just fun little bonuses that you can use throughout your story. Now, maybe the Elemental Fury Barbarian did not suit your fancy, but don't worry, we got one more option possibility for you, and that is the Spirit Guardian Barbarian, which, hey, wouldn't you know it, you get a little Spirit Guardian. So with the Spirit Guardian Barbarian, you get the Ancestral Guardian class feature, and with this, the first kind of like a feature that you get from the feature, I guess, is Bestowed Protection, where basically you get to learn a maneuver. Your choices are Parry, Protect, or Raise Shield, but the cool thing is, if conveniently with however your character is set up, if you happen to already know all 3 of those maneuvers, then you get to pick one additional maneuver of whatever you could possibly want. Now the second kind of bonus you get from this class feature I think is my favorite one, which is going to be the spiritual aura. So kind of similar to the last one, you gain a 5-space aura that's going to have some benefits, but on top of it you gain mystical resistance 1, which is really nice. Any resistance in DC20 is super nice, super powerful, so we love that. What you can do within this aura is, first off, you can use the shove action on any creature within this 5-space aura and push them horizontally in a direction of your choice. So kind of cool. Anyone within 5 spaces of you, you can just shove them using this kind of ancestral spirit guardian. So kind of sick. Secondly, you can use the parry protect or raise shield maneuver on any creature within that aura. So again, that's one of those 3 we talked about that you get to learn. The other neat thing is if you use Raise Shield in this way, which is a bit of a protective, if you weren't aware, maneuver, you don't actually have to be wielding a shield. So pretty neat, pretty unique. I actually really love this one. This is going to be super good, especially if you're trying to lean into a barbarian that's maybe a little bit more tank / team oriented, whereas Elemental Fury is going to be a little more solo, you can kind of handle yourself type thing. Now the flavor feature for the Spirit Guardian is going to be Ancestral Knowledge, and this one's pretty straightforward. You have advantage on checks to recall information about your history, of your ancestry, so whether you're a human, dwarf, elf, things like that, you were kind of advantaged because you have the Spirit Guardian with you and knowing how the history of your people played out. And then on top of that, whenever you make a trade or language check once per long rest, you can choose to gain advantage on that, because the Spirit is basically kind of helping guide you with its knowledge and its experience that it's had throughout that Spirit's previous lifetime. Now, coming into the Paragon subclass, which if you don't know or you haven't heard me talk about it before, is basically the epitome of that class. If you want to be a barbarian and you want to just really lean into that barbarian fantasy, well, that's perfect. That's what the Paragon subclass is meant to do, and it's meant to just really let you live through that fantasy of being a barbarian. Now, whenever you pick the Paragon subclass, there are 2 things that happen. One, you get to pick one of these special class talents, which we're going to go over, and then you also get a free trade point, because inherently these class talents are on average slightly weaker than if you just picked a subclass on its own, so you kind of get a trade point to compensate for some of that loss. The trade point, I like to believe, also really just represents the lost flavor feature that you would have gotten picking a subclass. So as for the class talents, every class right now has 2 options for its Paragon subclass to choose from. For the Barbarian, it's going to be either A, Unfathomable Strength, which lets you do one of these things is my absolute favorite. The kind of normal one is Leg Day, where your jump distance increases by 1. We love that. The other one is the Titan Grip, which I'm going to read this here. While raging, you can wield 2-handed weapons using only 1 hand. The possibilities of that are so astronomically funny, I can't even begin to explain, okay? Because you can now, instead of having just, wielding a big great axe, you can have a great axe and a shield, which would be intimidating if someone is running at you with a great axe in 1 hand. But you want to know what the best option is? Granted, it might not be the best for min-maxing, but as far as a character goes, you can now dual wield 2-handed weapons. So you can have a barbarian with Unfathomable Strength that is now dual wielding great axes, which just the image alone is so sick. And now the other Paragon subclass, which I actually think is another really fun one as well, is the Swift Berserker, which is very cool. It's all about speed and being a barbarian, that a lot of your muscles are maybe in your legs rather than just in your upper body. So whenever you roll for initiative, you can spend a stamina point as a reaction to rage, which is kind of nice. You don't have to spend any points actually on your turn during combat to rage, so that's kind of sweet. You're very quick to act, very quick into the action. And then you have Unstoppable Charge, where the movement granted by your charge, which is a class feature that barbarians get, which gives them some movement, lets you ignore difficult terrain and does not provoke opportunity attacks. So it just kind of buffs your movement options and lets you get into combat and be ready to go a little faster. So there you have it. That's going to be all of your options for the Barbarian subclasses. Let me know down in the comments what you liked, maybe which subclass kind of you lean towards more, and then maybe things you didn't like, things you're hoping to change. We unfortunately don't get to see the higher level features that we get from these subclasses yet. Those are going to be coming in a future update, but the Dungeon Coach has already talked about that the future updates are going to be coming a lot more frequently. This one had a lot of changing on the back end in terms of how they do things, which is going to speed up the future process of doing more. So I'm very excited for that. But nonetheless, I hope y'all enjoyed today's video. And as for the next one, for any of you maybe musicians, jesters, any bard lovers, might be excited to see the next video. But nonetheless, I'll see you on the next one. Peace out.